If you need assistance with your credit, text CREDIT to 702-778-2000. The Credit Show podcast with Harry Jacobs starts now.
I guess where I want to start is this kind of personal thing that happened, I don't know, I guess maybe last week or so. I've talked about it before. I'm a big cigar smoker, so I spend some time in Fuego Cigar Lounge. There's a couple of them. It's a little shameless plug. There's one over on Sahara at the Boulevard next to the Golden Steer, and the other one's in Henderson at Coronado and Eastern. And I've developed some nice friendships there over the years. And I don't talk much about what I do necessarily, or even about this show, which, by the way, we're coming up on 10 years of doing it. But one of the friendships I developed is a guy named Michael Perna. And I've talked about Perna periodically, maybe not by name on this show, but I went in, a week and a half ago, and I sat down, and I knew that he listened to the program. I just didn't know to the extent that he listened. But as we sat down, he said, you told me a couple years ago that insurance rates are tied to your credit report. And by the way, Perna is a guy who is in the insurance business, right? He sells benefits. He doesn't sell auto or home insurance. But the reality is he said, it's fascinating to me that insurance and really everything in our lives, as you've talked about. So as I'm listening to him talk about this, I'm like, here's a guy that really, pays attention and gets something out of it. So if you're one of those people, I appreciate that. But I want to touch on a couple things that Michael and I discussed. It was at one point I thought, boy, I should have mic'd this up and I should have just broadcast this. This would have been a good show. But when he heard me talk about insurance rates and why they're tied to credit, the light went off in his head. And I want to explain that to you right now because I think it's important. If you think about what happens when there's a car accident, one of your options had been and has been to get a check from the insurance company and handle the work on your own. Right? So if you think about it, if someone's got bad credit, they're more likely to take the opportunity to slam on their brakes, to fake an accident, to do whatever they need to do to get, an extra couple $1,000 or more, whatever it is. And that's why insurance rates are tied to your credit, right? They want to make sure that, that you're in good shape, right? Your job as well. It was the other thing too. He said, what about the job? What about work? And I said, same kinds of things. When you look at, why they would check your credit when you're working. Listen, if you're a casino worker, if you're a dealer, or you're someone that's in a position to handle money, right? You're working in the cage, wherever you may be working, you're someone that, if you're having financial troubles, maybe you would do something out of the ordinary to make money, right? Maybe you do that to make a couple extra bucks and put a couple of extra bucks in your pocket. And that's why checking your credit at work is something that happens. One of these, one of the things I do a lot of, we get calls from people that are, at Area 51. We get law enforcement calls because when someone's in law enforcement and they go for a promotion, same kind of thing. They want to make sure that you're not in any financial difficulty. You're not putting yourself in a position, or the agency that you're working for, you're not putting yourself in a position where you would do something that you wouldn't ordinarily do to make extra money, right? And this whole thing that my friend Michael Perna and I were talking to, this whole discussion, happens a lot. It doesn't generally happen in a forum like that where we spent 30 or 40 minutes over a cigar talking about it. But it's a deeply personal thing when you start thinking about what's on your credit and what needs to get done. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to over the years, whether it be over, at the cigar shop, or I'm out and I meet friends and someone hears about who I am or what I do. And, generally someone will pull me aside and say, hey, listen, I think that I need your help. I'm embarrassed and this happened or that happened. I always say the same thing. Listen, all I do all week long is deal with people that have credit issues. All I do all week long is look at credit reports and figure out how we're going to get those credit reports fixed. right? So there's nothing to be embarrassed about. But what you do have to do if you want it, to get better, is you got to step up, right? You've got to say, hey, listen, you don't have the opportunity to meet me in person necessarily without booking an appointment. It's not like, Michael and I sitting down to discuss this. But the reality is it's no different. You're in a position where you need help. All you have to do is pick up that phone and text us, right? Or call us. Phone number, again, by the way, if you're thinking about doing that, 702-778-2000. Right? And just say, listen, I need help. I heard the show and I'm embarrassed, or whatever it is. I don't ever ask questions about what happened. A lot of people will say to me, listen, here's what happened. I'm embarrassed, and blah, blah, blah. And I always stop people. I always say, listen, the details of how you got to where you are today, minus picking up the phone call to say, hey, Harry, I need help, are unimportant to me. Right? What's important to me is that you made it to me. What's important is that you woke up today or tomorrow or Monday or whatever, and you say, listen, this is the day that I'm going to get some help, that I'm going to get my arms around it. A lot of people say, when I look at their credit, after I've given them information on how to pull a report, I'll say, let's talk about your credit. What did you see when you were in there? And they say the same thing. It's almost laughable, right? They'll say, I didn't want to look. How horrible you look, you tell me. Right? Well, it's not that bad. I find myself saying that more often than not. It's not that bad. Not that bad at all. One of the other things that came up in this discussion, if you're just catching the show a minute late, I'm talking about this friend of mine. Last handful of years, we've developed a good, close friendship. We hang out, have dinner. He began to question me on things he was hearing on the show. He listens to the show. And one of the things he brought up was credit card balances, right? That was one of those where, what came out of his mouth was kind of an old school thing. And it's true. People of a certain generation would say, treat the credit card like you treat cash. If you don't have the money to buy something, don't put it on the card, right? And it may sound crazy to you. And listen, put it on the card and get miles. If you know you're going to have the money to pay it, just pay it. But do not accumulate debt, right? Don't do that. I mean, we have had this discussion with you, meaning you, the person that's listening to this program right now. If you're someone that's got, $750 credit and you've got a credit card that's $5,000 in terms of a limit, and you max that card out, that'll take you 110 points down probably. Right? It's crazy. You go 750 to 6, maybe 45 or lower. Right? It's simple. And when I started to explain that to him again, the look on his face was just, he was befuddled. But that's the power of revolving credit. It's 30% of your score when you look at how credit reports are scored.
You've been listening to the Credit Show podcast with Harry Jacobs. If you need assistance with your credit, text CREDIT to 702-778-2000.